For those who are accustomed to being here, welcome to our Sunday sermon. As usual, every Sunday we do this at 12 noon Eastern Time, which would correspond with 11 o'clock Central Time or 9 a.m. in California every Sunday. This is a Bible talk. It comes directly from the scriptures. So if you are on my work account and you see this is a special treat because typically I don't broadcast on my work account the Bible sermon. But today's topic I just thought was especially appropriate because we're going to be talking about the quiet spirit. And I think that's something that could be of interest even to those of you here on my work account. So I'm glad to be able to bring you guys in and give you access to this information. So today we are looking at the topic, the power of a quiet spirit. Theme scripture is 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 3 through 4. And it says, your beauty should not come from your outward adornment, rather it should be that of your inner self. And here the Apostle Peter is giving counsel that's directed mainly at the sisters in the congregation. But the principle applies to all of us. He says, rather it should be that of the inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit. A gentle and quiet spirit, which is precious in the sight of God. That scripture was 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 3 through 4. So that's our theme for today, this gentle and quiet spirit. It's important for us to understand how to cultivate a gentle and quiet spirit because we live in a loud world. We live in a rough world. We live in a world that is not gentle, that is not quiet, right? People compete for attention in the world that we live in today. People have arguments. We see arguments that spread online. We see people bully each other online. People feel pressure to react immediately. Probably everyone feels that pressure to react immediately. People feel pressure to defend themselves. You may have felt pressure to defend yourself. People feel pressure to prove themselves. And what all of this creates is a toxicity in the spirit of the world around us. But the Bible shows us that there's a power that is not loud. In fact, true power is quiet. True power is quiet. Sometimes the strongest spirit is the quietest one. Not weak, not passive, not a fearful spirit. No. A quiet spirit. Calm, grounded, controlled, peaceful. That's a quiet spirit. That takes power, especially in a world that doesn't encourage that type of spirit. A quiet spirit is not the absence of strength. No, it is the true display of strength. That's a quiet spirit. 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 3 through 4 says, your beauty should not come from your outward adornment, rather it should be that of the inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit. What this means is that instead of worrying so much about the brand name on the clothing or the hairstyle or the makeup, worry a little bit more about the adornment of the inner self. In other words, not how are you dressed on the outside, but how are you built on the inside. because we want to have a calm, peaceful, gentle, quiet spirit or mild spirit. The world values loudness. Our God, Yahweh, values peace. A quiet spirit is precious to God. Not because it reflects weakness, but it actually reflects trust in God. Yes, a person who has a quiet spirit is confident, and confidence is linked to trust. So if you're able to go through situations, through trials, through tribulations, just through everyday life in a loud world with a quiet spirit, you're showing that you trust in God to get you through whatever the situation may be. Because someone who does not trust in God cannot have a quiet spirit. They are not calm because they are not confident. And when you are not confident, how does that look? Oh no, oh no, oh no. It's a lot of panic. It's a lot of anxiety. It's a lot of overcompensating. And so we want to develop this quiet, mild, gentle spirit. Many people misunderstand quietness, though. Some people think that it's weakness, but it's not weakness. In fact, Jesus showed this, and Jesus was not weak. He told Peter, I could call down a legion of angels to protect me. So he wasn't weak, but he remained silent at times. Like the time that he was arrested on the night of his arrest, when he had, of course, done nothing wrong. He was silenced. And there's a scripture in Isaiah that predicted this. At Isaiah 53:7, it says, he was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Pontius Pilate is there. This is the governor at the time who was overseeing his sham of a case. Pontius Pilate says to him, are you the king of the Jews? They're saying you're the king of the Jews. And Jesus is just silent. And Pontius Pilate says, don't you want to defend yourself? They're talking against you. They're talking about you. And Jesus is just quiet. Now, why did he do that? Why was Jesus quiet if Jesus is not afraid? If Jesus is not weak, which he is not, it's because the quietness, the silence was true strength. It actually takes confidence in God, trust in God's purpose to not feel the need to speak out and to act out. Even though he was being falsely accused, Jesus did not panic. He did not scream trying to prove himself. Panic would have shown insecurity, lack of confidence, lack of trust. People who constantly need to prove themselves usually do not feel secure within themselves. People who constantly need to defend themselves usually do not feel secure in themselves. You don't want to display that spirit. No, we want to display strength. And strength is trust. And trust is confidence. And confidence helps us to have a quiet spirit, not a need to constantly defend ourselves, to constantly explain ourselves. Fear can create a lot of noise. If we have a restless spirit, then usually there's fear underneath of it. We have a fear of rejection. So we're talking. We have a fear of losing control. So we're trying to control. We're trying to manipulate. We have a fear of looking weak. So we're trying to look strong and look tough. And a lot of times that's what anger is all about. It's a display of bravado to try not to look weak when really we feel vulnerable. Anger is often a display of bravado so that we don't look weak when really we feel vulnerable. Sometimes people fear just being misunderstood, and so they're talking, trying to get that cleared up, get people to understand them, get people to see them, and all that creates emotional noise. People are interrupting each other constantly. People are over-explaining constantly. People are arguing. They're defending themselves constantly. They're reacting impulsively. If you've ever said something that you regret, it was because you allowed fear or other emotions to guide your actions instead of displaying confidence, which is the quiet spirit. If you've ever said something you regret or done something you regret, it was because you allowed your feeling or your emotions to guide you. And so instead of conquering fear, then we're allowing fear to conquer ourselves. But this scripture helps us. It's at Isaiah chapter 26, verse 3. Isaiah 26, verse 3, it says, "You will keep in perfect peace with those whose minds are stayed on you, because they trust in you." Those who will have peace are those who trust in God. Those who have peace are those who trust in God. Notice the connection. Trust, peace. Do you want peace? You must trust. Notice the connection. Fear, agitation. Do you want agitation? Continue to live in fear. Continue to allow emotions and fear to guide you, and you will live in agitation. A quiet spirit grows when we grow in our faith. And faith is related to trust, which is related to confidence. We talk about faith, belief, trust, confidence, very synonymous. A quiet spirit thinks before speaking. An emotional person can destroy their own relationships. One emotion, allowing it to control you, can destroy your purpose. It can destroy the ministry that you're building. It can destroy a marriage. Allowing your emotions to guide you can destroy your friendships. Allowing your emotions to guide you can destroy your reputation. But the Bible warns us at Proverbs chapter 17, verse 28, for instance, Proverbs chapter 17, verse 28, "Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent." Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent. I was just talking to one of my clients, and I suggested that he slow down before speaking or acting. And we talked about this rule of 7 seconds where you pause for 5 to 7 seconds before speaking. This is very good for emotional regulation. And I said, no, I literally want you to do this whenever anyone asks you a question, before you respond, I want you to pause. And he said, well, won't I look mentally slow? It's a question that a lot of us have when presented with this concept. So let's answer that right now. Why don't you think about it for a second? If you ask someone a question and they pause and think and then answer you, do they look to you to be mentally slow? Not at all. When a person pauses and thinks before they answer our question, at the very least, they're showing that they value their answer and possibly value our question. When a person pauses and thinks before they speak, we actually think they're intelligent. We don't regard them as mentally slow. We actually believe that they are smart. And that is what Proverbs 17:28 is saying. Even a fool, if he's quiet, will be regarded as wise. You will think he's smart, even though he's not, because he is quiet. That is the power of a quiet spirit. Think about businessmen sitting in a meeting, or women. And there's one person who's not very intelligent, but he doesn't say anything. He just sits there and listens. And person A says what they think, and person B says what they think, and person C says what they think, and person D says what they think, but person E, they're just quiet. Now remember, this person is not smart, but they are quiet. And what will happen? The boss will say, well, don't you have anything to say, person E? You've been quiet there the whole time, and everyone will turn and look at person E because everyone wants to hear what person E has to say. And why was everyone giving him so much attention? Because when a man is silent, even if he's a fool, he will be regarded as wise. At this moment, he appears to be smart because he is just quiet. That's the power of a quiet spirit. So allow yourself to cultivate the spirit of being quiet, not feeling the need to defend yourself, to explain yourself, not allowing those emotions to guide you, especially the emotion of anger. That one can get us in trouble, can't it? The emotion of anger, James chapter 1, verse 19 says this. Everyone should be quick to listen. This is James 1:19. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. Let that be a motto for your life. I am quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. I'm quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. A foolish person is quick to speak, slow to listen, quick to anger. You see? See how that doesn't work? We don't want to be, we just immediately get angry because we don't ever listen and we're slow to speak. You come home, your adult daughter is there, 18 years old. Mom, I need to tell you something. I didn't get the house clean like you told me to. I know we have the get together tonight, but I didn't get the house clean. You, what? I told you, you don't do anything I tell you to do. You don't appreciate me. You don't respect me. I guess I have to do it myself. What did we do? We were quick to anger, slow to listen, quick to speak, right? Instead of being slow to speak, slow to anger, slow it down, slow it down. Okay. Is there a particular reason why you did not get the house clean? Slow it down. Yes, Mom, I just got a letter that said I got accepted to the college that we've been trying to get me into. I've been really emotional, really excited, really distracted, and it's a full ride. You're not going to have to pay for anything. Now, are we glad we didn't get overly upset? We have to stop prejudging situations. We need to be slow to speaking, slow to getting angry, right? And instead, quick about listening, quick about hearing. An intelligent person recognizes they don't always understand everything. So let's recognize that and pause. I recommend for survivors, for those who are healing, teach yourself to pause by waiting 5 to 7 seconds before speaking or responding to anything. Practice. You need the practice to see that you don't look mentally slow. And even if people do become impatient, you need to wait through that. Even though it may seem like it will create an awkward moment, what it actually does is it shifts the energy so that that burden to immediately respond is no longer on you. And you instead are able to respond in your highest mind. Your spiritual self is able to make a reply to the situation. The holiest thing we can do sometimes is to remain silent long enough so that we can think clearly instead of reacting emotionally. We know Jesus had unbelievable power, but there he demonstrated the quiet spirit when he was being questioned before Pilate. But also, this was just the way he was, right? Like the time when the storm had brewed on the sea and the disciples were there on the boat. Do you remember this? And Jesus is sleeping down in the bottom section of the boat, and there's water literally coming into the boat, and the ship is going back and forth, and they're like, we're going to die. With the wind, with the rain, with the waves coming up onto the ship, we're going to die. They were very panicked. And so these disciples run downstairs and they say, Jesus, Lord, wake up. How can you be sleeping right now? We're going to die. And Jesus got up and he didn't get excited. He just walked to the top of the ship. And then he went to the edge and put his hands up and said, hush, be quiet. And the storm stopped, and the waves stopped, and the wind stopped, and it was no longer raining. It was a nice quiet night all of a sudden. And then Jesus turns around and looks at his disciples and says, why did you lose faith? And presumably goes back to sleep. His disciples were actually kind of frightened. Like, who is this person that he can calm storms? Well, that's your Lord. But did you notice some things about Jesus' disposition? First of all, he was sleeping in the boat instead of worrying about, did you notice that the boat was moving and rocking? Did you notice it was taking water? Why were you sleeping at a time like that? That was a kind of a valid question that the disciples had. Why was Jesus sleeping? Anyone know? Because Jesus' spirit was calm. That's why. He wasn't worried about anything. He didn't allow emotion to guide his actions. He was getting the sleep that he needed to continue his ministry. And then when he goes up and then he calms the storm, which is a miracle by any stretch, turns around and why does he say to the disciples of all things, he says, why did you lose faith? Why does he ask his disciples? They were going to die. They thought they were going to die. Weren't they justified in being a little nervous? Weren't they justified in being nervous? No. You heard me. No. They were not justified in their anxiety because they had Jesus with them. If you recognize that you have Jesus with you, this is how Jesus is thinking. I am Jesus. You know nothing is going to happen if it's not in its due time. So there's nothing to be worried about. There's nothing to be nervous about. I'm with you. That's why he asked them why they lacked faith. Because honestly, if they would have just had faith, even if they would have asked him for help, it wouldn't have been in a panic. They would have just simply said, oh, Jesus, would you help us out? We're totally cool and calm and collected up here. We just need a little assistance. And they would have felt calm because they had total faith of who was with them. Their Lord was with them. There was nothing to be panicked about. That's why they lost faith. They were not justified in their anxiety, and neither are you. Because if your Lord is with you, if you are a footstep follower of, if you are walking with Jesus, you are not justified in feeling anxious for what you're going to eat and what you're going to wear and what you're going to put on. Matthew 6:33, for he knows that you need these things and he'll provide for you. So why are you anxious? Why are you losing faith? Peace is not created by circumstances. Jesus' circumstances weren't creating peace when he was taking his beauty rest in the bottom of the ship. Peace is created by trust. Trust. Peace is created by confidence. Faith. Faith. Some people fall apart emotionally the second their circumstances change. Let your faith not be in your physical circumstances. Let your faith not be in your money or in your job. Let your faith not be in your house or in your car. Spiritual maturity creates steadiness because we have faith and we have confidence, but not in the physical things. Our faith and our confidence is in the spiritual things like our God, Yahweh. Yahweh is ultimately the most powerful being in the universe if he is with us. For what reason would we have to be anxious? That would be a lack of faith. So we don't need to panic. We can respond wisely. Satan loves confusion. Confusion is a fruit of the enemy. Satan loves people to make impulsive, reactive, irrational decisions. He wants them to be worn down and easily manipulated. But Yahweh, our God, produces order and peace. 1 Corinthians 14:33, our God is not a God of confusion or disorder. He is a God of peace, a God of order. Some people think that spiritual warfare has to always be dramatic, but sometimes it's just about protecting your inner peace. That is your fortress. Protecting your mind, protecting your focus, not following the emotions, not following the heart, but protecting your spirit from constant agitation, having faith in God, confidence in God, focusing on everything he's done for you and believing in everything he can do. That's faith. All the extra noise that can block out our clarity, it can create confusion, all the distractions can make it difficult to think deeply or to pray. But Psalms 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." So in our families, in our marriages, in all of our relationships, being calm can help other people to be calm as well. A quiet spirit helps people to feel safe. Think about that daughter in the illustration going to her mom. If her mom has a quiet spirit, the daughter feels safe to continue to speak to the mom. Jesus didn't feel the need to answer every accusation or chase after everyone who had the wrong idea or the wrong impression about him. Not every criticism deserves your energy. Proverbs 26:4 says, "Don't answer fools according to their foolishness." A quiet spirit understands that not every battle matters. Not every opinion matters. Not every accusation requires a response from us. Your focus is on your purpose, your ministry, the way that you are going to make God's name great. So let's slow down. Let's ask questions. Ask ourselves, what response would honor my God? And we can reduce the mental noise by turning down the volume on the news and the social media and listening to other people's gossip and being around toxic people, those who don't believe or who don't practice their belief. That can help us to develop more inner peace. And in conclusion, we can speak wiser, we can react slower, we can trust deeper, because it's better to be a patient person than it is to be a warrior. It's better to be one with self-control than one who takes down an entire city. That's Proverbs 16:32. Hopefully the information today was helpful to you. If you're on our normal channel, you know how to get in touch with me for a Bible study. You can send a direct message to me. Today, because I'm on my work channel, if you're here watching this and you would like to study the Bible, you can study the Bible with me for free by sending me a direct message. You can send a direct message here to my account. We appreciate you being here. And take the information, take some time to meditate, pray, and put it into action in your life. We'll see you next week. For those of us who do this normally, 12 o'clock noon on Sunday and 11 o'clock Central Time. It's 12 Eastern. Take care. Have a good afternoon.